Let's talk about what might be the European Union's digital moonshot, a plan to connect 27 different countries and nearly 450 million people with one single digital key. In this explainer, we're going to break down this huge push for what's called e-governance, what it is, and why it could completely change how you live, work, and even travel across the entire continent.
So just imagine for a second, what if you had a single, secure digital key on your phone, a key that unlocks services across a whole continent? You could file your taxes in one country and then use that same key to access healthcare in another. That's the core promise of the EU's big digital dream. It's a massive idea, so let's unpack how they're even planning to make it a reality.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into the problem, what we're calling the EU's digital dilemma. Then, we'll look at the ambitious solution, e-governance, and the actual technology that's supposed to make it possible. After that, we'll see what this all means for you, how it could digitize your life. And finally, we'll tackle the one huge political hurdle that could stop the whole thing in its tracks, a standoff over national sovereignty. So, why this massive overhaul and why now? Well, the EU is facing a pretty serious digital dilemma. For a union that was built on the idea of seamless integration, its digital world is, well, anything but. And at this point, going digital isn't just a nice to have, it's become an absolute necessity. And here's the heart of the problem. For decades, the EU has built this incredible single market. People, goods, and money can move around freely. But the moment you go online, it's a totally different story. It's this frustrating patchwork of 27 different digital systems that don't talk to each other. They're all walled off, and that creates constant headaches and a ton of inefficiency. Now, this digital disconnect is creating some immense real-world pressure. For one, running old-school paper-based public services is just incredibly expensive. At the same time, to stay competitive on the world stage, the EU has to be hyper-efficient. And then there's the political pressure. Critics love to point at EU spending as being wasteful. So, being able to show off streamlined, cost-cutting tech is a pretty powerful counterargument. And if you need just one number to really understand the scale of the problem, here it is: 14%. Right now, only a tiny 14% of key public services let you use your home country's digital ID somewhere else in the EU. For an organization built on the idea of free movement, that number is, frankly, a massive failure. It just shows you how far they really have to go. Okay, so you're faced with that fragmented, messy reality. What's the plan? Well, this brings us to the e-governance solution. This is the EU's bold vision for a future that's truly connected. At its heart, e-governance is actually pretty simple. It's really just about using technology to make government work better. And we're not just talking about putting paper forms online. No, this is about fundamentally rethinking how services are delivered so they're faster, cheaper, and way more connected for every single person.
The EU has basically broken this big vision down into 3 connected goals. First, you start internally, improving the actual machinery of government itself. Then, you extend that outward to connect directly with citizens through better digital services. And finally, the ultimate goal is to build a wider digital society where all these tools work seamlessly with the private sector too.
A grand vision is one thing, but how in the world do you actually build it? That takes us to the digital foundation, the real nuts and bolts, the tech and the rules that are supposed to make this whole thing work. Turns out, it all really hinges on 3 crucial interconnected keys. If the EU can get these 3 things right, the entire system actually has a fighting chance. So, let's unlock them one by one. The first, and honestly the most important key, is the European digital identity. It's all built on a regulation you might hear about called EDOS. Just think of this as the master key. It's the common standard that's going to allow every country to recognize and, crucially, trust the digital IDs that are issued by all the other countries. So this digital identity will live in what's called a digital wallet right on your phone. And here's the really critical part. It's going to be available to everyone and accepted almost everywhere, but you are in complete control. The whole philosophy here is that you, the user, get to decide exactly what piece of information you share and with who for every single transaction. So, you've got your digital key, but how do all these different government departments actually talk to each other across borders? That's where key number 2 comes in, a data exchange layer. The best way to think about it is like a super secure data highway called X-Road. It lets all these separate national databases share information without having to create one giant central EU database. It's a decentralized approach, and that's really important for protecting both privacy and national control. And listen, this isn't just some theory. The tiny country of Estonia has been pioneering this with its own X-road system since way back in 2001. It has literally become the digital backbone of their entire country, connecting thousands of services. So now, the EU is basically using Estonia's success as the blueprint, and they're running a pilot project between them and Finland to figure out how to scale this model for the whole continent.
And that brings us to the third and final key, the one that really makes the whole system trustworthy: security and privacy. I mean, with this much data moving around, trust is absolutely everything. So the EU is leveraging its cybersecurity agency, ENZIA, and its world-famous GDPR data protection law to build a system that's not just secure from hackers, but that fundamentally protects your personal information by its very design.
Okay, we've covered the frameworks, the data highways, all the technical stuff. But what does any of this actually mean for you? Let's bring this down to earth and look at what a digitized life in the EU could actually look like. This is where the abstract gets really concrete. With your digital wallet, you could do all of this and so much more anywhere in the EU. Just think about it: applying to a university in France, renting a car in Italy with a digital license, or just proving your age to get into a concert, all with a quick tap on your phone. Now let's zoom in on one application that could literally be a lifesaver: e-health. The goal here is simple, but it's totally revolutionary: making your most critical health information available securely wherever you happen to be in the EU. Two of these services are already starting to roll out. With something called e-prescription, you could pick up medication in another country just as easily as you would at home. And with the patient summary, a doctor in an emergency could instantly see your allergies or medical history translated into their own language. This isn't science fiction. It's happening right now. And the ambition doesn't stop with health. The EU is also building out an e-justice system using these exact same principles to make cross-border legal stuff way simpler. For regular people and for businesses, this means things like small claims or business disputes could get resolved much faster and more transparently across the continent. Okay, it all sounds fantastic. I mean, it's efficient, it's modern, it's convenient, but there is one massive roadblock, and that brings us to our final section: the sovereignty standoff. This quote from one of our sources just sums it up perfectly. The technology is there, the vision is clear, but the biggest challenge is the same political tension that has defined the EU for decades. It's the reluctance of national governments to hand over control of really sensitive areas like citizen data and identity to a central European system. Ultimately, the path to a seamless digital Europe is going to require an unprecedented level of trust and cooperation between all the member states. And it leaves us with the ultimate question for the EU's future. When it comes to our digital lives, can you get that true European efficiency without sacrificing national control? Or does one inevitably have to give way to the other?